How's it going, guys? And welcome to the very first episode of the Foolball Show, your home to all the latest football news and transfer updates. We thought we'd kick off our very first episode with a little bit of a recap of last night's Europa League final, arguably the worst European football final of all time, as Tottenham lifted their very first trophy in 17 years, beating Manchester United 1-0. We're going to delve into a little bit of match analysis, look at how the players did in the match last night, and then also primarily what the future holds for Manchester United. Tottenham Hotspur 1, Manchester United 0. In arguably, as I mentioned, the worst European football final of all time, as Tottenham are crowned Europa League champions for 2025. Guys, I really actually don't know where to start with this one. As I said, it was the worst European football final we've ever seen. There really wasn't even much in the game that really happened. Early on, we saw a few chances from Man United. Amad Diallo got that chance. I think it was from a corner. Didn't really fall their way. Spurs, on the other hand, got the ball to bobble into the back of the net. Andre Onana, we're going to get to him as well. Not sure how Manchester United are going to move forward with him as their goalkeeper. I think it's pretty much now common knowledge that they need to upgrade that position. But as I mentioned, I don't think there was much to the game. When you look at the start, yeah, Man United, in my opinion, actually were the better side on the night. They had more chances. But at the end of the day, Spurs came out tops, and you got to give them credit for that. They did what they needed to do. Brennan Johnson scoring just before the halftime break. And in the second half, they came up and they just shut shop. They pretty much played, you can say, like Arsenal do most of the Premier League season this year. They were defensively sound. I don't think they even had a chance in the second half. I don't think they had a single shot. Man United did most of the attacking. I think Man United must have had like 7 or 8 chances in the second half. Couldn't bury any of their chances, which has become quite a theme for United this season. We know their attack's lackluster. Midfield's lackluster, and I think actually the midfield is where Tottenham won the battle. You could see who did Tottenham have in midfield. It was Bentancur, Sarr, and who was the Basuma? Basuma was the other midfielder, and you can see the physicality. They just overran United, controlled the game very nicely, and I think that's pretty much where the game was won and lost. It was definitely in the midfield battle. When you look at the Man United side, we obviously know Andre Onana is not a good goalkeeper. He shouldn't be the goalkeeper for Manchester United. Who they can replace him with is another story. Maybe a Jordan Pickford could come in the summer. But if you look from the Man United perspective, obviously, like I mentioned, the goalkeeper is not up to scratch. Defensively, I thought they were quite good. Mazraoui was quite good. Dogu was arguably man of the match between him and Linioro. Maguire also very, very good. Luke Shaw has got a lot of criticism after the game, but I think as a whole he wasn't horrible. He wasn't like the worst player I've ever seen play for Man United or in the Premier League as a whole. I just think it's pretty much evidence of where United are at the moment. They just have a team filled with really like not good enough players, and you can actually kind of say the same for Spurs. And that's why they both 16, 17 in the Premier League, and why I mentioned that it was the worst European football final of all time. The battle was won in midfield by Spurs, and I think that's where the issues came in for United. Bruno Fernandes, did he start? Yeah, he started next to Casemiro in the holding midfield, central midfield roles with, with Diallo, Mason Mount, another guy that, wow, he even started ahead of Garnacho is another story. And then Woyland, probably the most ineffective striker in the Premier League this season. And yeah, I think if you look at the game as a whole, starting Bruno in a deeper role was definitely a mistake. They should have started Ugarte. In my opinion, you could have dropped Mason Mount and you could have moved Bruno up front, or you could even have had Garnacho come in. Garnacho at least has a little bit more of a threat than Mason Mount offers, even though Mount has scored a couple of goals in his last few appearances. Yeah, so I just think when you look at the game as a whole, Man United, like I said, in my opinion, were definitely the better team. They did more of the attacking, but Spurs had the better game plan, and I think that's another reason why they won. Not just the midfield battle, but I think Ange actually had Ruben Amorim's number in this game. Spurs have been known, as Ange said, it's just who we are, mate. They just go with the full flow attacking style, but he changed it up for the final, and I think that might have caught Man United off guard. They must have expected Tottenham to be the same old Tottenham we've seen throughout the season, but Ange changed it up, and to his credit, he does say he wins trophies in his second season, and he did that for Tottenham. Also, the first manager in 17 years to do that, despite the array of world class managers that they've had, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte. So you got to give props to Ange for that one. Whether or not he stays in the role is yet to be seen. When you look at the league form, I mean the league is your bread and butter. That pretty much cements how good you are. And with the current status of Tottenham and Man United, you can argue that both need to change managers. Amarin's a bit newer, so you possibly can give him a little bit leeway and say that if he actually gets a proper transfer window in and also a preseason, maybe we can see an improvement in Man United. But with talking about the transfer window, considering that no European football next season, major debt, um, arguably some of their best players will be leaving this summer as well. We know Bruno's got that big bid from Saudi Arabia, and where they would be without Bruno this season would possibly get relegated. It's scary times for Man United. It really is, and I know a lot of the other United content creators on social media have really been going at the board, the owners, the management, and they've got the right to do so. I mean, the club's really been running to the ground. Once, arguably, they're definitely not anymore. It's the biggest club in the world, the most prestigious club in the world, the club that every player would want to play for, same stature as Real Madrid. They're just not that anymore, and I don't know who they're going to attract this season. We know of this upcoming season. We know they pretty much have a deal lined up for Mateus Cunha. Will be a big improvement. Obviously, he can play as a 10 and as a 9, so he's going to help them out a lot. Was one of the better players in the Premier League, also for a struggling Wolves side, and that's probably the type of players that they're going to be having to look at. The players of the teams just above them, maybe a Mohamed Kudus, Antoine Semenyo, maybe some of the Brentford players, Brian Mbuemo, some of the players that won't be playing European football next season and could view Manchester United still as a bigger club than the one they are at. Because they were linked with, just before the match last night, they were linked with Victor Gyökeres. We know Arsenal linked with him as well. And I think that ship has likely sailed now. You never know. You never know. Money talks. He's also Amarin is there. Someone Gyökeres has played with before. But personally, for me, I think the Gyökeres ship has sailed for United, and they're going to have to look at someone like a Liam Delap, who does also seem like he is going to make the move. I know Chelsea are also interested, and maybe if they qualify for the Champions League, they got the lead on that one, maybe as front runners. But it's scary times for Man United fans. I really don't see the situation getting better anytime soon. You really don't know how it's going to get better. You look at all the staff cuts that's been going on around the club. Excuse me. You look at everything that's just been happening with the club over the last, people say the last decade, but I think more important, the last year and a half, 2 years. It's been a very much a downward spiral. They lucked out a few times with the trophies they won in the last couple of years, the Carabao Cup and then last year FA Cup, that actually got them qualified for the season's Europa League. And they were really banking on this Europa League win, qualifying for Champions League, and then getting that really much needed investment, the money that they would have created from being in the Champions League. So I think for United, it's a scary time moving ahead for them. The type of players that they're going to attract, it's going to be probably a very slow rebuild that's going to need to happen at that club. And as I mentioned, a lot of the big name players, the players that are of quality, will likely leave, and then you just don't know which direction the club will be heading in. Then you flip the coin onto Spurs. Not really, as we all know, not really the biggest team in England. Big team, but not the biggest team. Whether or not the Champions League is going to allow them to attract, it's definitely going to allow them to attract better players than what they could have had if they didn't win the Europa League. But still, you don't expect them to really be pushing for the high end players, making big bids on players that will really change their fortunes around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them next season as well. It's going to allow them definitely, like I say, to improve the squad a lot more than if they didn't have the Europa League. And they also need it. Both these teams are the 16th and 17th in the Premier League, respectively. Both these teams are going to need big rebuilds, big changes at the club. And Spurs fans, obviously exciting. First trophy in 17 years. Champions League football allows them the opportunity at least to look into like a proper rebuild. Whereas Manchester United, it it's despair at the moment, and I understand the pain that the United fans are feeling. It's not a nice moment for them as a club and as a fan base because everyone can see which direction United are heading in, and it's not going to be good. It's going to be a long struggle. It's going to be a painful struggle. It's going to be a situation where there's going to need to be huge investment, which seems unlikely with the current owners as well. So if you look at Manchester United, I say that they need a goalkeeper. They need to change the goalkeeper. My option would be Jordan Pickford. Premier League proven. He is safe. He's the England #1 goalkeeper. I do believe he probably will switch Everton for Man United if given the opportunity. Also, the salary increase, and Manchester United still are a bigger club than Everton. So he's definitely one. They're going to need to look at getting like another centre back in. We're going to see Lindelof leaving. Maguire, even though Maguire's one of their better players this season, we know the history between him and United. The fans aren't the biggest Harry Maguire fans. So they're probably going to look at getting another centre back in as well. Then you're going to need to look at, in my opinion, 3 midfielders. Cunha coming in, he can play attacking midfield, but you're going to need to get another CDM with Casemiro hopefully going. If Bruno leaves, then it's even a bigger problem, but at least with the proposed 120 million pounds that they will get from Saudi, it gives them some leeway to actually advance with some proper investment for midfielders. But on the midfield front, they're going to need to also get, like I mentioned, 2 to 3 midfielders. I know they don't really play with wingers at the moment. They play with these inverted wingers, tens, like the double pivot in the 10. Garnacho leaving would also increase some funds for them. Kobe Manu is not the player he once was. Attacking wise, they're going to need 2 strikers. Xerxes is okay. He's not that good. Rasmus Højlund is really, really, really not good, guys. So it's going to be an interesting summer. I can see United still pushing for some players. You just don't know the level of those players they're going to get. They're going to need to build in some stability, and then from there grow. There's not going to be a quick turnaround. They're not going to fix it in one transfer window, one season. There's going to need to be a slow change. And I think most importantly, they need goals. They definitely need goals. The defense, like I mentioned, even last night, the defense wasn't horrid. It's just that they have no attacking impotence. Teams aren't scared to face them. Van der Ven, I know he made that brilliant Kung Fu style clearance off the line. But as a whole, the other opposition defenses aren't really terrified of Man United's attack. They don't really have super goal threats. I mean, Bruno was the only one scoring a couple of free kicks, etc. this year. So a goalkeeper, 1 or 2 defenders possibly. I mean, that's because they're going to be losing a couple of players. So 1 or 2 defenders coming in. Maybe that Inacio from Sporting. Then you're going to look at 2 or 3 midfielders. Who those midfielders are, I really don't know. You can maybe argue an Adam Wharton, even though they're going to have Europa League next season. But I'm sure if the opportunity arose, he possibly would swap Crystal Palace for Man United. So maybe someone like an Adam Wharton, even though he's going to be 100 million, which Man United probably don't have to spend. Then, as I mentioned, as well, Cunha coming in, which will add a lot of depth and experience as well as quality into that 10 role. Also can front up as a striker. And then Liam Delap. Liam Delap's the name I've been hearing most linked with United. So that's pretty much what's going to be happening there. As I mean, I think at this moment inside Man United, you never want to say a finished club, but they are in the pits. They're in despair at the moment, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for our first episode. It wasn't the longest one. We thought we'd just give a little recap of what happened last night in the Europa League. We're going to be trying to do this, get a video out to you guys every single day, update you guys on the transfer news. I mean, the transfer window is coming up. For some people, it's the most entertaining, most intriguing time of the year. So some big transfers definitely coming this season already. Zubamendi to Arsenal, Gyökeres to Arsenal, Rodrigo to Arsenal possibly. Look at Liverpool, they've already signed Frimpong, working on a Kirkes deal, maybe Florian Wirtz. Man City to Johnny Reinders, even though they spent 200 million in the January window, I think there might be something with their charges coming up that they spent so much earlier this year. But guys, I really feel for the Man United fans. Like I say, there's about 6 clubs ahead of them, and they're all going to be playing Champions League football, let alone the other ones that are trying to push for those Champions League spots. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, this is the first one of the Foolball Show, the first episode of the Foolball Show. We'll be doing this a lot more regularly. And as always, please don't forget to smash that like button, follow the Foolball, subscribe to the Foolball Show for all your latest football news and transfer updates, and leave your comments in the comment section down below. Thanks, guys. Tottenham